Morning, everybody. We had a good night in the wall tent last night. It didn't get too cold at all. We stayed pretty warm. I haven't had to keep a fire going inside of the wood stove because it's been so warm out. So what I figured I'd do today was, this morning I get up, make some chaga tea, and do a quick video talking about chaga. So chaga is a very, very useful mushroom. It is considered a mushroom. It can be found on paper birches or yellow birches, typically in the northern part of the United States, Michigan. There's been some found in Pennsylvania. There's even been some found as far south as West Virginia. But in my area, I don't have it. But this was a piece given to me by my good buddy, Kevin Baxter at Salty Dog Outdoors. So you guys go check him out. If you guys have not subscribed to him yet, go do that and tell him I sent you. But anyways, chaga has a lot of health benefits, and it's also very useful for fire starting. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the health benefits, why chaga is good for you, and then I'm going to go into how to process it for fire making. Chaga actually grows on multiple different types of trees. It can be found on elm trees, a couple other different ones. I can't name them all, but elm was the one that stuck out to me the most. But if it's growing on a tree that is not a birch, then it will not have what's called butylenic acid in it. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Butylenic acid is known for its anti-cancer and anti-tumor properties. So it is known to fight cancer cells. I'm not saying it's going to cure it. Now, before I get too heavy into this, be sure you do your own research on this stuff. Chaga is also known to reduce inflammation whenever you ingest it. And like I said, it's got anti-cancer, anti-tumor properties. It's known to fight cancer cells and slow the growth of cancer cells. It can also help lower your blood sugar and also your cholesterol. So this is a really powerful mushroom that you could carry with you in your kit. It doesn't have to be this big. It could be a small chunk. And after you make tea with it a few times, you can toss it in your bag and keep it in your bag and just dry it out and use it for fire starting. This is one of the only things in nature that will actually go up with a flint and steel right beside of a milkweed ovum. So this stuff is very, very multifunctional. If you live up north, you guys see this stuff all the time, I'm sure. But for me, I live in Southern Ohio, so we don't have this stuff here. How I made this tea was, there's a couple different ways you can do it. The best way to do this is to probably ground it up in a powder and steep it, right? I did it the quick and easy way, how most people will do it out here while they're in the field. The best way to make chaga tea really is to steep it and have a lid over your pot or your cup or whatever you're using to steep with. That way, all of the volatile oils are not escaping out of the steam, and they all catch on the lid, and then you can just, tap the lid a couple times and it drops back down in there. Boiling is a really field expedient way. It's the quickest way to get tea real fast, and you're still going to get a lot of good health benefits from it. You can grind this stuff up into a powder and do it that way, or you can toss it in whole like I did. Now, with the piece that I tossed in, it's probably good for about 7 or 8 uses. Whenever you start to see this stuff, the tea will typically get lighter and lighter each time, depending on how long you boil it. I typically use a piece 7 or 8 times before I say, okay, time to take another small chunk off, and I'll throw the other piece in my fire kit. But I'm going to give you guys a close-up of this. Yes, there is some hot chalky residue in here. This is a very, very dark tea, and it's very rich. It almost has an earthy taste, I think. I've heard some people say it kind of tastes like a dark chocolate, but I think it kind of has a little bit of an earthy taste. It's not horrible. You can always cut this with coffee or something like that. Like I said, this is a very powerful mushroom, and in my opinion, it's one of the best things off the landscape that a woodsman can carry with him in his kit because it does have so many uses. I'm not really sure if you guys can see that very well, but you can see, I'm gonna kind of splash some out here. You can see how dark it is. It's almost yellowish. The longer you let this boil, the darker it's gonna get and the stronger it's gonna be. I let this boil for right around 2 or 3 minutes, and then I just pulled it off the fire. After we drink all of our tea, we just dump the pieces out. You can see how dark they get. Just set them out in the sun or set them by your wood stove for a couple of days. Let them dry out and get nice and corky. They'll be ready to use again for fire starting and or tea. So if you're looking at this piece of chaga on the tree, and I'll put a picture of it up right now, it has like a black shell over it basically. It looks like it's been burnt. It almost looks like charcoal. So that is not what we're wanting for the fire starting part. You don't really want that for the tea either. What you want is this orange cork type material, and you'll see whenever I cut into this, it's very soft. It's like a cork. That is called the amadou. that is really what you're looking for as far as for fire starting and or, you know, making the tea. So what we can do is we can just take a small saw or Swiss Army knife or whatever, just make a couple cuts in it to get some of this dust collected up. We're going to create as much surface area as we possibly can. Remember, in fire starting, the more surface area you have, the better. Once we think we might have a decent pile, put our saw up. Actually, we'll kind of see if we can get some of this stuff piled up over here. That way it's not. Probably be best to put a bandana down or something for this part. So once we think we have a pile about the size of a silver dollar or so, we can either hit this with our ferrocerium rod, just like that. This is not going to turn into flame. It's going to be an ember. And you'll see this ember start to grow because everything will start to turn white around it. And once you get this stuff lit, it's almost impossible to put it out. But you can now transfer this ember over to a bird's nest or a tinder bundle and blow it into flame and put that in your fire lay. You can see how it's kind of turning white on top a little bit. A little saw bit me pretty good on my finger. Stuff happens. So anyways, if you want to use this with flint and steel, you could either use a regular steel just like this, or you can use, you know, the spinier knife. So what I like to do is I like to actually hold the steel down, find a good edge on the rock, there's I guess a little piece of ferrocerium in there. We won't count that one from the rod. We'll just find a good edge on our rock here, get to striking. Now this may take a couple times, guys, because you got to think you're lighting a natural material with an 800 degree spark or less. You know, ferrocerium rod throws a 3,000 to 5,000 degree spark. A flint steel throws maximum an 800 degree spark. So, you know, this may take a couple of tries for you to get it. So I went over there and used the back of my axe and busted the piece of flint apart because it was I did not have any more good edges on it. So I went ahead and created a little bit more powder. Again, like I said, another thing you have to think about too is where this chaga has been sitting in the wall temp is probably not 100% dry. Oh, there it is. Whoa. You see how quick that stuff grows once it catches. So here you can add more stuff up on top of it. You don't want to smother it out. I ended up accidentally breaking off the end of my steel. Bummer. That's alright, I can always just heat it back up and bend it back. This is one that I made a long time ago. Oh, there it is. So you can also light a chunk of it if you have a ferrocerium rod. You can see how this right here is turned into a nice big ember. Now you can see this. So this will also allow you to carry fire with you or carry an ember from one location to another if you have a big piece of this. You can also do the same with the horsehoof fungus, but the horsehoof fungus does not have the medicinal properties that chaga does. So something you guys have to remember is that chaga is not the same as horsehoof fungus. They don't even look the same. Like I said, I'll put two pictures up. I'll put one of a piece of chaga and then one of horsehoof fungus. Horsehoof fungus is what's, you know, readily available in my area, but you can't use horsehoof fungus medicinally for anything. Like I said, chaga is a very multifunctional resource because you can use it medicinally and you can also start fires with it and or carry embers from one location to the next. And like I said, you'll see it's kind of like a mass on the side of a tree. It turns black on the outside, and you cut it open, it's nice and orange on the inside. So when this is sitting up against a tree, it'll just look like a ball basically. With horse hoof fungus, it looks like an actual horse's hoof coming out from the tree and attached to it, and you can break it off and you can use it for fire starting as well. Well guys, I appreciate you joining me for this video talking about the multifunctionality of Chaga for the woodsman. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram and also Facebook. I'll leave both those links in the description box below. If you like any of the gear that I use in any of my videos, I'll also leave a link below to my Self-Reliance Outfitters influencer page. You can find some of that gear on that page. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one.